Welcome to the 4th episode of Byby Mymy cooking show. Today we are doing things a little bit differently. We have 2 special guests with us today.
So the first guest will be cooking a dish for us, and then the second guest will review champagne for us. So this is our good friend Weisern. So he's our first ever guest of our cooking show.
Hello.
What are you going to cook for us, Weisern?
Buttermilk fried chicken today.
Wow, delicious. I think that's my favorite dish of yours.
Thank you. It's a 2-day process, so on the first day, you want to brine the chicken. And to make the brine, you have to heat up oil in a small pot, smash garlic, about 3 to 4 of them.
Do you have to chop the garlic or just
Now,
smash?
just smash. Give it a good smash like that.
Very powerful.
Some chopped onions, they have to be quite thinly sliced like that. Some oil and heat them through.
How do you know when it's heated through?
When you see that the onion becomes translucent, that's when it's almost done. Okay, now that the onion is translucent, add about 3 tablespoons of salt. Give it a good stir. And add about 4-5 sprigs of washed rosemary and just slightly warm it up. So after about 30 seconds of tossing around the rosemary in a mixture, add about half lemon juice and 1 liter of water. After adding all the water, just make sure that the salt is dissolved. Now, add chicken pieces into a Ziploc bag. The amount of the brine is enough to hold probably 8 chicken drumsticks and 8 chicken wings. And now make sure that your brine is cool enough to touch before you add it onto your chicken.
So Weisern, why do we need to brine the chicken?
The purpose of brining is to tenderize the chicken as well as locking in the moisture in the chicken. This is a similar process of making ham, for example. It gives you a very nice texture when you cook the chicken.
And the flavor as well?
And the flavor as well. So make sure that your brine is not over salted, otherwise you get really salty meat. Okay.
And this just go to the fridge now.
Yes.
For how long? Overnight, did you
So
say?
it has to be overnight or at least 8 hours. So I've brined some yesterday, as we said at the beginning of the show. It's a 2-day process. And in the morning, make sure that you take them out, pat dry, and dry it in the fridge for at least 4 hours before frying. Now it's time to make the batter. To make the batter, you need 210 grams of plain flour, half a tablespoon of salt, sea salt, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1.5 tablespoon of freshly ground black pepper, 1 tablespoon of sweet paprika, and 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you don't like it too hot or spicy, cut down on this. And you have to make 2 batches of that, and you'll know the reason why later. Okay, after adding all the batter ingredient into the bowl, quick whisk and prepare 450 ml of buttermilk in a bowl. Heat up a pot of oil and make sure that it's 180 degrees hot before you start frying. Okay, let's start frying. So you take out your chicken from the fridge. First, coat them in the first bowl of batter, and then the buttermilk, and then the second bowl of butter. And make sure you shake all the batter away before you fry them. So throughout the frying process, make sure that your heat is low because you want the inside to cook thoroughly. And how to tell it's cooked? As long as the batter slowly turns golden brown, that's when you know it's almost done. I will give it another 10 seconds.
Wow!
That looks amazing.
I know. Yum!
Thank
you.
You're welcome, Mimi Cooking Show episode 4.
You're welcome.
Cheers!
The chicken was delicious, wasn't it?
Yes, I know. So much calorie though.
It's okay, once in a while.
Okay, so we're gonna move to my house now to do a vertical tasting of Charles Heidsieck non-vintage champagne.
And we have our second guest, James, who is a very knowledgeable wine enthusiast, who will be giving us a review. We have a special guest with us on the show today. This is our friend James. He's a wine economist from the University of Western Australia, and he's going to give us a review on the 3 champagnes that we have tasted today.
Hi, welcome. This is, we're having, if you're Australian you would say Charles Heidsieck. If you were French you might say something like Charles Heidsieck. But one of the great things that Charles Heidsieck is doing is it's releasing both the time the wine was laid down and when it was disgorged. So if you are a regular consumer of champagne, even for special occasions, you're likely to be buying non-vintage champagne. And one of the things about non-vintage champagne is that it has a component from the vintage of the year and then some reserve wine. So it's not clear that it's always of equal quality. So this is a really great initiative for consumers. I really hope to see a lot of other wineries take this on and start telling us about what's in the non-vintage wine. So one of the things we've been able to do tonight is have a look at 3 different disgorgement dates of this wine, which is very interesting. So it's given us a chance to see its evolution, and it probably highlights something that many people don't realise, which is that even if you're buying non-vintage champagne, it will change over time. Particularly wines that have a lot more lactic acid, they will really improve with a little bit of time in the cellar, even though they're non-vintage wines. So we've been looking at the disgorgement dates 16, 15 and 14, and really what that's given us a chance to see is how well the Charles Heidsieck is holding up, because it has such a great range of reserve wine to blend in. So what we would really be looking to see is some consistency in the product and then the evolution through time over the years, and that's really what we see with this wine. We see the 16 disgorgement is really fresh. It doesn't have any of those appley characteristics that we might think of that are with the very lactic acid dominant wines, but it's a very beautiful wine. It's very light. We then go back 1 disgorgement year and you can see the evolution of the wine. It's softened. We're starting to see these real nougat flavours, and that's probably something that's driven by the vintage variation. So we do see quite a change in just 1 year back. So it's non-vintage wine, it's meant to be very similar each year, but it's not always the same. And then when we go back to the 14 disgorgement date, it's really a much rounder and fuller wine. It actually could be something that you might not think about this immediately, but it doesn't need to be super chilled. It's really developed some more interesting characteristics. So I don't know that I would really say that, you know, I have a favourite of these 3 wines. I think that what's really impressed me is that this house is able to produce a consistent non-vintage product. That's probably because of the large amount of reserve wine that goes into the non-vintage. The other thing that's probably a bit surprising for consumers these days is the dosage in this wine is very high. It's 12 grams of sugar. Modern palates are really not taking that much sugar, but this wine really holds that. I was thinking that because it has some malolactic fermentation, it might not need that, might not have the carry to hold up that amount of sugar, but it really doesn't feel overly sweet. It's got a really nice mouth feel for all of these wines. So if you have a recent disgorgement date, and I really encourage you to look for wines that are starting to publish this kind of information. It's really great for the consumer. The 16, the fresh disgorgement, great wine. This would be fantastic for summer. Few years on down the track, really much more interesting wine. Those nougat characteristics starting to come to the fore. So really do think about your non-vintage wine, and don't think that, hey, I'm going to drink this on the spot. Do try and put a few bottles down and watch its evolution over time. So like me, I hope you enjoy some champagne in the coming weeks.
So James, I know you said that you can't really pick a favorite, but if you really had to pick one, which one would you pick?
I probably like the 14 more. I just felt it had more developed characteristics. But the other wines are fantastic wines. I think that this house is a really fantastic house. Most people will know of the other part of the business, the Heidsieck.
Piper Heidsieck?
Yeah,
Yes.
which also makes some really good value wines. This is something that you might want to look at as your next step up in tasting from champagnes.
So Byby, what's your favorite?
I think 15 is my favorite. Has always been for a while, but after trying the 3 of them side by side, I think I'm still going for the 15 disgorgement.
It's a difficult pick for me, but maybe the 15 as well.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, James.
It was my pleasure.
Cheers. Cheers.